People usually look at me and laugh. Some are afraid, some feel sorry, but the worst, the ones that stay with me, are those who look at this scar and find it funny. I heard them before I saw them, a group of kids, loud, careless, the kind of laughter that doesn't belong to people who've ever buried anyone. They sat near the window, their voices bouncing off the tiled walls like stray bullets. One of them, the loudest, with a fresh military haircut and a smirk too big for his face, pointed right at me. "Hey," he said, "careful, that old guy looks like he could set your steak on fire just by staring at it." Laughter. Sharp. Cruel. The kind that cuts deeper than any knife ever could. I didn't look up. I just balanced the tray in my hands. 2 plates of burgers, a side of fries, a soda sweating through its paper cup, and started walking. My name is Frank Delaney. They call me Scar. Once, a long time ago, I was part of the Airborne, the 101, 75th Rangers. I fought in a place that smelled like smoke and red clay and rain that never really washed the blood away. Now, I'm a waiter in a small diner on the edge of a town that's forgotten what war even looks like. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the pain, not the years, but the quiet kind of disrespect that comes wrapped in laughter. I walked up to their table, still hearing the echo of that joke in the back of my mind. The boy was showing off, puffed chest, arm around his girl, playing the hero in a place that never needed one. The girl kept her head down. You could see it in her eyes. She didn't laugh. She was embarrassed for him. I placed their food down gently. No words, no reaction, just a nod. Then I turned to leave. That's when it happened. A sudden movement, a leg stretching out under the table. I didn't see it, only felt the edge of his boot catch my ankle. The tray hit the floor, plates shattered, grease and sauce splattered across the tiles. For a second there was silence, the kind that falls before the world decides whether to pity you or mock you. Then the laughter came again, louder this time, and something inside me went still. I bent down slowly, picking up the pieces. My hands shook, but not from anger, from memory. The boy stepped forward, his boot landing square on the tray, grease smeared across the floor. He looked down at me, grinning. "Clean it up, old man." I looked up, really looked this time. His eyes were young, reckless, untested, and his posture? I knew it. That was how soldiers stood before their first fight. All pride, no fear, no understanding of what either truly meant. I asked quietly, "You're a soldier, aren't you?" He blinked. "Yeah. Why?" I met his gaze, steady, firm. "Then learn humility. A man in uniform who forgets respect, loses it faster than he realizes." His smirk vanished. You could almost hear the silence lean in. He grabbed my collar, knuckles tight, breathing hard. The smell of cheap cologne and anger filled the air. I didn't fight back. I just moved. A shift of the wrist. A reflex born decades ago in a place halfway across the world. And before anyone could understand what happened, he was the one on the floor. No force, no violence, just gravity, and pride meeting consequence. Every head in the diner turned. Nobody spoke. The sound of rain tapping the window was the only thing left. I stood there, breathing steady, the taste of old discipline still bitter on my tongue. And for the first time in years, I wasn't ashamed of the scar. There are habits a man never loses, even after the years strip away everything else. The way I move when someone grabs me. The way I breathe before a fight starts. They say time softens a soldier, but time never touches instinct. He came at me red-faced, pride bleeding louder than the cut on his lip. "Did you just hit me, old man?" he shouted. Everyone in the diner was staring now, forks frozen halfway to mouths, chairs creaking under the weight of silence. I looked at him, steady, not angry. "I didn't hit you," I said. "I just moved out of the way." That only made him angrier. You could see it, the pulse in his neck, the tremor in his hands. He wasn't thinking anymore. That's the danger of being young. Anger comes faster than thought. He lunged again. All muscle, no mind. And for the briefest second, I wasn't in Benny's grill anymore. I was back in the ring. Back in the army gym, under hot fluorescent lights, gloves tight, sweat in my eyes, hearing my trainer yell, "Breathe, Delaney. Always breathe before you break." The motion came before memory. A small turn, a step off the line, my right arm snapping forward, not hard, not cruel, just true. The sound was soft, flesh meeting flesh, followed by that quiet gasp people make when they see something real. He stumbled back, hand to his face, and when it came away, red ran down his fingers. No one clapped. No one spoke. The friar hissed again, as if nothing had happened. But every pair of eyes in that place was locked on us. Then Benny, from behind the counter, his voice low, almost proud, said, "He used to be Army boxing champ, you know." I didn't look at him, but I heard it settle over the room. The boy froze. His anger started to fade, replaced by something worse. Embarrassment. He wiped the blood with his sleeve, jaw tight. The same look I'd seen on recruits after their first loss. That disbelief that the world doesn't bend just because they're strong. I stepped closer, my voice low enough for only him to hear. "You've got fire," I said, "but no discipline. And on a battlefield, fire without control gets men killed faster than bullets." He stared at me, eyes wet, not from pain, but from pride breaking down. Then he pulled out his phone, hand shaking. "I'm calling my father," he said. "You'll see what real military men look like." I sighed. Not out of fear, but out of pity. Because I'd seen that look before, the desperate need to prove you're something more than what you are. "Son," I said quietly, "you don't need to call a war to win an argument. War doesn't take sides. It just takes." He didn't listen. He never would, not yet. I could see it in him, the same arrogance I once carried into jungles that didn't care about names or medals, the same pride that almost got me killed more times than I care to remember. He stepped away, still bleeding, still angry, still sure the world owed him the last word. And as he raised the phone to his ear, I thought, how strange it is that every generation has to learn humility the same way, through pain. I turned back to the counter, picked up a towel, and started wiping the same spot I'd been cleaning before it all began. Not because it needed it, but because that's what a man does when he's got nothing left to prove. About 10 minutes later, the door opened. Cold air rolled in, carrying the smell of rain and the sound of boots on tile. I didn't need to look. I knew trouble had finally arrived. The diner went still, that strange kind of silence people make when they sense rank walking in. I heard the weight in the man's stride before I saw him. Broad shoulders, straight back, the kind of presence that fills a room before he says a single word. Then I saw the name tag glinting under the neon. Cole. He stopped just past the doorway, scanning the room like a man counting ghosts. "Who laid a hand on my son?" he said. Not asked, said, his voice sharp, trained, cold. Ryan jumped up from the booth, blood still drying on his lip. "That's him, Dad," he said, pointing straight at me. "The old man." For a moment, the father didn't move. Then he turned, and the room seemed to tilt with him. Our eyes met, and the sound of the rain outside filled the space between us. He looked at my face, at the scar, and something inside him shifted. A flicker of recognition, disbelief, maybe both. The kind of pause only a soldier makes when memory hits harder than anger. I set the tray down carefully. "If you're his father," I said quietly, "then I imagine you've only heard half the story." He stepped closer, his boots clicking slow against the tile. There was no rage now, only something heavy, human. His voice dropped, low and uncertain. "That scar," he said. "My father used to talk about it. All the time." The words caught me off guard. "Your father?" I asked. He nodded once. "Thomas Cole. He fought in Vietnam. He said a man named Frank Delaney pulled him out of a collapsed bunker at Ripcord." The world narrowed. Ripcord. The word hit like thunder after decades of quiet. The hill, the fire, the screaming radios, the smell of mud and blood that still wakes me some nights. "Thomas," I whispered. "Ripcord, July 1970. His eyes glistened. He nodded again. "Yes." My father told that story until the day he died. He said the man who saved him carried a scar, left side of the face, because he refused to leave him behind. My throat tightened. 50 years. Half a century buried under routine and silence. And suddenly, that day was standing right in front of me. The man straightened, his voice trembling. "Frank Delaney," he said, "you saved my father's life." I wanted to answer, but the words wouldn't come. The sound of the rain grew louder, every drop like a heartbeat echoing the years I'd tried to forget. Then he turned sharply to his son. "Ryan," he said, and his tone cut through the diner like a whip. "You just insulted the man who saved your grandfather." Ryan froze. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He looked from his father to me, and I could see it, the realization crawling up his spine. The pride drained out of him like color from his face. His father didn't stop there. He took another step, eyes locked on his son. "Do you have any idea who you picked a fight with?" he said, voice low but shaking with restrained fury. Every man in my father's unit knew that name. Frank Ghost Delaney, the man who dragged soldiers through hell and never left one behind. You didn't just pick a fight with an old man. You picked a fight with a legend. Ryan blinked, trying to process the words. I could see the boy turning back into a child. Proud, but suddenly very small. The colonel looked back at me. "Dad used to tell us stories about you," he said softly. "He said you were the kind of soldier every man wanted watching his back. He said you took hits for others, carried wounded men out of burning bunkers, and when you weren't saving lives, you were knocking down anyone dumb enough to step in the ring with you." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries grief. "You were the Army boxing champion 3 years in a row, weren't you?" I managed a quiet nod. "Back when the gloves felt lighter," I said. The colonel's smile faded into something solemn. He turned to Ryan once more. Son, I don't care what you've learned in basic training. Discipline, honor, humility, everything you think you know started with men like him. You owe this man your respect, and your bloodline owes him your existence. Ryan's eyes dropped. He swallowed hard, guilt washing over him in waves. The sound of the rain softened, as if even the storm knew to listen. The colonel faced me again, and for a moment the rank, the uniform, all of it disappeared. He wasn't a soldier anymore, just a man standing before another man who had once carried his family's life in his hands. My father tried to find you, he said, for years. But you vanished. I wasn't hiding, I said quietly. I just didn't think anyone would remember. He shook his head. He never forgot. None of us did. For the first time that night, the air in the diner changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was still. Alive with something sacred. Ryan lowered his head. Lena reached for his hand, her eyes glistening. Even Benny stood straighter behind the counter, silent but proud. And I stood there, an old man in a grease-stained apron, staring at the son of a man I'd once pulled from fire, and realizing that promises have long shadows. I thought I'd left that war behind, but sometimes the past doesn't come back to haunt you. Sometimes it comes back to salute you. The name Thomas Cole.
Delaney, leave me,
I never
go!
forgot it.
No one gets left
Even
behind.
after 50 years,
Not
it
while
still
I am still
echoes the
breathing.
way artillery used to. Far away, but close enough to make your bones remember. There are cries you can bury, but they never stop calling your name. When William spoke it, everything around me disappeared. The clinking of cups, the murmur of the diner, the hum of the neon light. All gone. I was back there again. Ripcord, the hill that chewed men alive and kept their ghosts. I can still taste the smoke. The sky wasn't blue, it was fire. The ground shook like it was trying to shake us off. We were young, reckless, and terrified, but none of us would admit it. And then I heard him. Thomas, pinned beneath a collapsed bunker, shouting for help, shouting for me. I ran. The air burned my throat, the smoke clawed at my lungs. He was half buried under sandbags and twisted steel, the heat crawling closer, whispering that there was no time. He saw me and yelled, "Leave me, Delaney! Get out while you can!" But you don't leave a man behind. Not when he's still breathing. Not when his eyes are still begging you to try. I said it then. Words that never stopped haunting me. No one gets left behind. Not while I'm still breathing. I tore through the wreckage, pulling him free. Every sound disappeared except his voice and my heartbeat. And just when I thought we'd made it, the world exploded. A wave of light, a roar of fire, and something cut across my face. Hot, sharp, final. That was the moment the war signed its name on me. This scar, its handwriting. When I woke up, the sky was quiet. Thomas was gone. And for half a century, I thought that was the end of his story, that maybe saving him had been for nothing. But standing there in that diner, with his son looking at me, I learned how wrong I was. William's voice was shaking when he said it. My father lived. He made it home. He told your story for the rest of his life. Before he died, he told me, if you ever meet the man with the scar on his left cheek, tell him I never forgot. Those words hit harder than any bullet I ever took. For a moment, I couldn't speak. 50 years of silence broke all at once, like a dam giving way. William stood straighter, every inch the soldier his father had been. He saluted me, crisp, deliberate, full of everything words could never say. The whole diner rose behind him. No one spoke. Even the rain outside held its breath. I returned the salute, slowly. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Because some medals aren't worn on the chest. They're carried in the hearts of those who remember. And that night, under the trembling yellow light of Benny's grill, I realized I wasn't just a man with a scar. I was a promise kept. Finally coming home. I've never thought of myself as a hero. Heroes are the ones who don't come back. I'm just a man who survived. And sometimes surviving is the only way left to tell the story. The boy stepped forward. His face was pale, his pride gone, replaced by something I recognized. Shame and the beginning of understanding. He swallowed hard before he spoke. "Sir, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't know." I looked at him, really looked at him. He was young, built like the future, but still carrying the ignorance of someone who'd never seen how fragile life can be. I gave him a small smile. "If I were younger," I said, "you'd still be on that floor. But I'm old now, and I've learned that some lessons don't need fists. All I ask is that you learn how to stand tall, without stepping on someone else to do it." He nodded, his head low. The kind of nod that meant he'd remember. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. I bent down and picked up the tray I'd dropped earlier. Bits of food still clung to it, cold, broken, forgotten. I wiped it clean, set it back on the counter, and kept working. It felt right somehow, to finish what I started. No one said a word. The diner stayed quiet, filled only with the soft rhythm of rain tapping against the glass. The neon light flickered, catching the edge of my scar, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to hide it. People look at scars and see wounds. But I look at mine and see the men I pulled from the fire, the ones who made it home, and the ones who didn't. War doesn't take everything. It leaves behind something too, a reason to keep standing when the world tells you to sit down. I hung up my apron, took one last look around the diner, and stepped outside. The rain hadn't stopped. It fell soft and steady, washing the grease and the years from the pavement. I stood under the sign, Benny's grill glowing gold in the dark, and let the cold air fill my lungs. For a long moment, I just breathed. The kind of breath you take when you realize the weight on your shoulders has finally let go. Then, I started walking. No music, no applause, just the sound of rain and the steady rhythm of an old man's footsteps. And maybe that's enough. To keep walking. To keep remembering, to keep standing tall, long after the war is gone.